Hey, it's Sam, and I'm talking today about Sandhi, this universal Vedic astrology principle, which happens when planets change signs. Sandhi literally means joining and the junction point where two signs join. And when a planet passes through two signs, in between two signs, which happens usually once, sometimes twice a week, many times a month, all the time, then it creates a very specific type of energy, which I'm going to talk about today. It's akin to sort of like moving with all of your things kind of packed up, and the next thing is ahead, but the previous thing is behind. And it's this kind of situation where it's sort of half here and half there, but it's more important than that, or it's more specific than that. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this video today. Please like the video. Clicking like helps a lot more than you know. It pushes the video higher in relevant video searches. Also, please leave a nice comment. Comments also help more than you know as it raises the video in searches. Many times with hundreds of likes, there are only a dozen comments and they can be disproportionately negative. So be positive. Let me know if you like this. Even just a few words really help. So subscribe, ring the bell to get notified of upcoming videos. Yes, so please do that if you like this content. So this is very important principle in Vedic astrology, and again, it's called Sandhi, when planets move from one sign into the next. Now, again, it happens a couple times a week, often. Even this week, as I'm recording this, May 14th, 2024, Venus will be Sandhi by the end of the week. The Sun is Sandhi and moving from Aries into Taurus on May 14th. So again, this is an incredibly important principle, considering especially how common it is and how it's not really very well explained, frankly. And again, because it's a bit tricky, it's kind of complicated, and it's one of those things. Again, I can give the metaphor that I just gave, where it's like, oh, that's really helpful. It's like when you're moving, okay, but that's just a kind of metaphor. But it's not just moving in general, it's moving between two places, and it's a very specific energy. It's not just any planet doing it, and it's not just any signs doing it. There's a whole dynamic that is at play also, and that's really where the nuance of the interpretation comes into play. So, for example, in the what I have here is the Sun moving from Aries to Taurus, right? So again, it's not just that the Sun is that they're in between these two places, but it's like an Aries place and a Taurus place. And the boxes are kind of sort of packed up and going back and forth as you're moving from one place to the next. And there's a kind of excitement about the next thing that's ahead of us, right? So that, the next new thing is coming, but it's not quite there yet. And the other thing, we've just been there and it's kind of finished, but it's not totally finished yet. Again, think about moving in between two cities or something, two houses. It's two different experiences, two different bhavas, which is actually the word for it. But as I say, that's just the principle. But the greatness of the interpretation comes in the specifics. So again, this is the Sun, for example, in this case, the Sun moving from Aries, where it has a very specific nature, to Taurus, where it has another very specific nature. So again, you have to break all of those things out. First, what is the Sun? What is its nature? Okay? How is that nature supported or detracted, or how does it operate in the sign of Aries? That's an interpretation. Okay, now that energy then starts to wane. It becomes less about that lesson and more about the next lesson, which is Taurus. Okay, so how does the Sun, what is this energy of the Sun doing in the sign of Taurus? How does it operate in that environment? Okay, now again, these are two very specific things, but they're not completely unrelated. So, for example, we could say, well, the Sun is exalted in Aries, so that's good. It's powerful there. So it's moving from a place where it's powerful to a place where it's not as powerful or something. Again, this is the general explanation. Okay, that's good. All right, that's good because you're identifying something, and then you can fill in the details a little bit. But what really makes for even a better interpretation is, how is Taurus related to Aries. How does Aries become Taurus? Because we don't have these clear separating lines. It's not a demarcation. Well, it's Aries, now it's Taurus. And as if Aries has nothing to do with Taurus, etc., etc. So how does the energy of Aries become the energy of Taurus? For example, how does our life, let's say if we want to use the moving metaphor, how does our life that was happening here move into that next area? Is it a complete hard stop where nothing makes sense from one place to the next? Well, it was totally this way here, now totally that way there. Well, yes, the environment is different, but again, the person, it's still you who is making the move. So again, when it comes to astrology, it's not just one energy, which is the energy of the sun in this case. So how does the sun move from Aries to Taurus? First, again, what is the nature of the sun? And how is that supported, or what is its nature in Aries? How does that move to Taurus? How does that same energy go into Taurus? And what is it like when it's moving from one to the next? That particular energy. Because again, later in the week, we're going to have Venus doing the same thing. So Venus was just in Venus is in Aries now, and Venus is moving from Aries to Taurus. How is that different? Because now it's a different energy. It's not the sun in Aries to Taurus. It's now Venus. Venus is a different bhava, a different consciousness. How is that moving from Aries into Taurus? And again, so we have these principles. It's still the same principle of moving from one place to the next, where you're kind of in between two different realities or two different locations. But how is that different aspect and energy working? So again, as it says down here, Sandhi is when planets move between two sidereal rashis. This brings the qualities of both signs and houses into play. And I put sidereal here because, again, in Vedic astrology, which is what we're doing here, the rashis, the signs, are pinned to the nakshatras. Now, the reason this is important is because you also have points where the signs change and the nakshatra also completely changes. And that's what's called Gandanta. That's a deeper level of Sandi, a deeper level of this junction point. And again, one of the deeper qualities of the Vedic astrology and how you can see this integrity of the zodiac that is purely sidereal based is that the zodiac itself is based on nakshatras, because the signs have this Sandi junction, but behind this sign is a nakshatra called Kritika. And the Kritika nakshatra is the energy that maintains that continuity between Aries and Taurus. The continuity that's maintained between Aries and Taurus can be understood as Kritika nakshatra, as an example. And again, this takes place throughout the entire zodiac, where behind each Sandhi point, there's a nakshatra, except when you have the Sandhi points between the water and fire signs. So between Cancer and Leo, Scorpio and Sagittarius, and Pisces and Aries, both the sign stops and the nakshatra stops. So this is called Gandanta, which means loosening of the knot, when the knot loosens. Because here the knot of the nakshatras ties the zodiac together. Even though the rashis stop, there's still a knot that's holding the energy together between Aries and Taurus, Taurus Gemini, Gemini Cancer. But then Cancer Leo, the knot loosens and unties, and it's called Gandanta, where the knot becomes untied. So really, we need to understand this concept of Sandhi as a correct Vedic astrological principle is not just, well, tropical also. No. Again, if you want to do it tropical, that's fine. But the reason it's different is because when we do Vedic astrology correctly, the zodiac is pinned to the nakshatras, and Sandhi becomes real because the rashis are changing, the signs are changing here between Aries and Taurus. But what maintains the continuity is the qualities of Kritika, which is the fire in the earth. That's literally what it is. Kritika is like related to the Lord Agni, but Agni, especially as in the ceremonial fire, where you put the fire in the earth and offer oblations to Agni, it's literally like fire in the earth, which is this transition between Aries and Taurus. So this is a very deep principle. I'm going to be doing some more teaching on Sandi and a few other things here very soon. So, stay tuned for that. But as it says down here, a good metaphor, think of when you move from one house to another. One thing is leaving as a new thing is beginning. Half of your things are at one place, half at another, and you're not quite together. So again, this is very important. And for example, every week when I do the detailed week ahead for all of my members, I talk about, like, for example, when I did the week ahead for May 13th to May 19th, I talked about these Sandi planets. I talked about this Sandi of the sun moving from Aries to Taurus. I talked about later in the week, Venus is moving from Aries to Taurus. I talked about at the beginning of May how Jupiter moved, the Sandi of Jupiter, which is actually within that last degree, takes a few days because Jupiter is a slower moving planet. So I talk about these Sandis all the time in the detailed week ahead for all of my members. And then when people get a deeper level, that at the Lemurian level, I go over the entire month, a detailed monthly forecast. And then I also do the Vedic week ahead. And I also have these classes here for a deeper, for those who want to join at the Oracle 5D level, you also get a lot of free classes and whatnot. But I wanted to talk today about Sandi, this principle of planets moving, joining, and what holds the zodiac together. It's an important fundamental principle. It's happening all the time. So keep your eyes out for it and notice how these transitions are happening. And again, if you want to understand these things in real time, you can become a member at different levels, and we'll just leave it at that. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel.